No surprises there. Hello, and as always, welcome to the Laramy-K Optician Works Training Center. A couple of weeks ago, I got back-to-back emails and a special request on, can you help me identify different lens materials? And as is so often the case here, I say, sure. I can recall being a student and part of the practical exam for getting your license in the state of Virginia was lens material identification. We had stacks of trays where we would practice this and think about all the things that we could do in order to tell what material we were holding in our hands. The truth of the matter is it is extremely rare that you really need to know what material you have. Let's talk about that a little bit. Once in a great while, you're going to have somebody come in. Maybe it's an older person. They just moved into town and they had just had cataract surgery before they left their old place. The place that they used to go is closed and you can't get their information from there. And they had one eye cataract surgery done, the other one's normal, and they need that lens replaced. You take their glasses apart and you've got this one lens and you don't know what it is. I'm going to give you some tips to figure that out. What's nice is today, so many older folks particularly have progressive lenses. If you look at the laser etchings on a progressive lens and you have your ID chart or you go out online, you can find out exactly what material that lens is made of. You're done. A lot of modern single vision does, all your freeform models, some of your specialty single vision products, they'll have it marked on there as well. Same thing on the laser etchings. I think this boils down more often to what I'm going to set my edger at in order to cut a set of lenses if I'm not sure what material it is. But again, we're going to find out that that really doesn't matter all that much. What happened during a frame change? Let's say somebody came in trying to do a nice thing for them and you're going to take the lenses from their old frame that broke perhaps and you're going to try to put them in a new one. You're going to use your edger to do that. And you need to know what settings you're going to put it on. That's where identifying the lens material you have is going to be pretty helpful. Regardless of what you find, especially in the one lens scenario, do what's right. If you have somebody in a +50 or a -1 and it turns out they're like in a 174, get them out of the 174. Don't just go for that because that's what they were wearing. That's kind of overkill. Another good point to all of this, good part of all of this, is if you're not sure, single vision lenses in particular are pretty darn cheap. If in doubt, just do both of them. It's not going to hurt anything. If you're priced right, you're going to come out of the head at the end when you get this whole thing done, rather than guessing and putting in the raw material and having them complain and trying to troubleshoot and having them come back and go out and come back. If you're not sure, maybe it's best just to change both lenses out. My students had a little saying that I really liked. It said, Trivex goes thud, poly goes plink, and plastic goes plunk. And we'll get over to the bench in a minute and find out if that's true. What's nice about this is you can tell what poly is. Obviously you can tell what glass is, not that you're going to edge that anyway. I'm going to show you how you tell what Trivex is. And everything else is going to fall into the high index category. 160, 166, 167, 170, 174. And you know what? The edger just has one setting for high index, so it's really not going to matter. We are going to run through every single possible material I could get my hands on. I got them in plus, I got them in minus, got them in 2 different manufacturers, wherever I could do that. And we're going to run through them all. We are going to talk about what that material feels like, what that material looks like, what that material sounds like, and yes, even what that material smells like. Welcome to the bench. Let's get going. A little awkward today. I needed a counter that sounded like a counter you would have at work, so I had to kind of rearrange the studio a little bit. Just as always, I try to do my very, very best to get you a mix of really common lenses, common manufacturers, common powers, stuff that you would have sitting around the office, and maybe you mixed up the lens packages. Knowing and being able to identify lens materials is a handy thing to know. It's not quite as important as it used to be. One of the other reasons for that is, of course, AR coatings. Unless they're within a month or so of each other, you're really forced to replace both lenses, not just one. So it doesn't really matter which material you're talking about. Business point, the absolute bare minimum that you're ever going to do on a lens markup is 2 times. If you had to, for some reason, do a pair, in lieu of 1, at least you're going to break even. We all know what glass sounds like. I don't think we're going to need to go into this a whole heck of a lot. I am dropping these things from a height of about 10.5 inches. Glass, obviously. No surprises there. Next, I have got a 174 series from Seiko, the only company that those are available from. This is a -2. It has a little bit of flexibility, not a lot. It has an AR coating. It comes with it. You can't order it without. It has almost like a satin polish finish to the outside edge. And it sounds like this in a -2 uncut. I shouldn't talk over that, should I? This is a +2 uncut. And this is a -2 cut. And that's 174. Oh, you know what else? Aha, can't forget this, very important. Think I've got a high index. Let's see if it smells. It sure does. It has a very mild garlic, high index smell to it. So there's another tip. Tri-brids, kind of a rare thing. We don't see them very often here. They were actually kind of hard to get, but I did track down a couple, and these are, this is a -2. It has some flexibility, not a heck of a lot, really. Again, kind of almost like a satin polished edge to it. -2 uncut, sounds like this. And a -2 cut sounds like this. I don't know. Does tri-brid smell? Let's find out. Not really. Next, we move on to a high index 167. This does come in a couple of different manufacturers. And why would that matter? Because of the coating on the outside, it's going to change perhaps the way it sounds. A 167, little flexibility, much like all the others. Almost a clear edge. Particularly one does not have an AR coating. This is a -150 uncut. And let's see if it smells. Not very much. I was actually expecting a little bit more. We'll try the other brand as well. Here is a 167 plus 150 uncut. Here is a plus 150 uncut in a different manufacturer. Here is a minus 150 uncut. 167, boy, that has a pretty distinctive sound. And here is a 167 cut. And I said we were going to see if this smells anymore. Let's find out. not that much. I was really expecting a little bit stronger odor from that. The 174, very distinct. The 167, not quite so much. Moving on to our very traditional Trivex lens. I think the biggest giveaway on the Trivex is the flexibility in it. I mean, you can almost fold this thing over if you wanted to. And that's a huge tip-off. Translucent satin finish kind of edge to it. A -150 uncut. A +150 uncut. You see that kind of that thud sound, the deader, empty sound. A +150. Yeah, that's pretty distinctive. And a -150. Yeah. And a cut -150 in Trivex. I think that description of the thud for Trivex is actually a pretty good one. Polycarbonate a -150. And I think, you know, the sound is what really gives poly away. The edge on a poly in a molded blank like this is crystal clear. It's another tip off for you. Quite rigid. I mean, it has some flexibility, but it sounds like it's rigid and feels pretty rigid. And of course, that super distinctive sound, a -150. A +150. I say that I think most people describe it as the sound of a poker chip, particularly when we get to that cut one. +150. A -150. That high pitch sound. And a cut -150, where you'll hear that very distinct poker chip sound. That one is pretty easy to identify. And we are going to wrap up our lens material ID session with plastic. This is a CR39. Kind of heavy, it's kind of thick, has a translucent, almost an unpolished edge, not even a satin. It's a very matte finish. It's got a little bit of flex, but it's very, very rigid. That hollow sound. A -150. A +150. A +150 in a different manufacturer. A -150. And a cut plastic or CR39 lens. I guess one other last tip-off I would say is that most of your high-index lenses, your glass and your plastic are probably the only ones that don't have a slightly gray sheen to them when you're looking at a white background. I had one other question pop up when I started looking into identifying lens material, and that was, can you identify a lens material by its center thickness? Hey, it was a great question. I did run it by a couple of lens manufacturers, and sadly the answer is no. It really depends on the coating, the material, the process, the country that they'll be selling that lens to. I'm afraid there is no concrete rule to material and center thickness. Oh well. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you found this useful. If you did, please hit the subscribe button down there in the corner or like us on Facebook. And if you are in need of uncut lenses in finished or surfaced in any material at all, please consider Laramy-K Optical. You can find us on the web at laramyk.com. I'll see you next week.